Hello and welcome to another episode of the Brett Campbell Show. Today I have an absolutely mind-bending, warping episode for you. Today I am chatting with a friend of mine, Rossco. I met Rossco a few years ago. Actually, I went down to one of his offices and I ran a presentation. I can't remember what I was even talking about actually, but it was good. I'm sure it was. Anyway, today's episode, like I said, is an absolute mind bender. You would have gotten it by the title already, and it's all conversations surrounding cryptocurrency. So Rossco, for the last 3 years, has literally been immersed in the cryptocurrency world. So I asked him every conceivable question that I've had around cryptocurrency. In fact, Rossco is the guy that I reached out to probably about 3 months ago. I jumped on the Bitcoin train when it sort of popped, and I bought some Bitcoin, and then I was stuck with how do I even get my Bitcoin out? Like, what do I do with my Bitcoin? So I was actually messaging him, and he was telling me that you got to do this, you got to get the wallet, you got to do da-da-da-da-da, and now I can actually extract my Bitcoins, or any other coin as well, into my own bank account. So Rossco really helped me out there. However, this conversation I try and break down in as plain English as I possibly can with Rossco, what cryptocurrency is, how cryptocurrency is going to be changing the world moving forward, and what you can do right now if you do have some Bitcoin or any other type of coin. So you might need to listen to this episode twice because I was funny because I recorded the episode with Rossco, and then later on that afternoon I was walking with a friend and I was trying to tell him about the episode, and I was really struggling to try and articulate what I'd listened to. And that was purely because it was all foreign, right? It's a totally new concept. It was like I was learning a new language, which essentially we pretty much are when it comes to the economy and how we currently operate in a day-to-day world. The introduction of cryptocurrency is literally going to revolutionize how we operate and how we do commerce. So highly recommend you take some notes on this. If you've got any follow-up questions, which I'm sure you probably will, make sure you hit us up. You can hit us up on any of the socials, or alternatively, head over to iTunes, drop us a 5-star review and ask us a question. I'll make sure Rossco comes back and we answer that for you. So last thing, make sure you take a screenshot of you listening to this on any of your devices, upload it to your Instagram story, make sure you tag me at Brett Campbell Official. That way I'll be able to know that you're checking out the episode. Let me know what your biggest takeaway is, or let me know if your mind just blew up like mine did. So there we go. Without further ado, my in-depth conversation around cryptocurrency and all things coins with Rossco. Rossco, mate, glad you made it.
I made it.
You had to have you had your corona test? Seen you've come from a state unknown.
I'm a Mexican. I came from over the border.
Over the border. Yeah. Well, in this case, New South Wales, mate. I wanted to get you in here. We've known each other for a while, and then you were sort of in a maybe actually you start. What were you doing pre-cryptocurrency? Because that's what I really want to jump into the crypto side of things today. But when we met, you were that typical sort of entrepreneur, right? You had a lot of things going on,
for sure.
And then this world of crypto sort of arrived, and I was like, oh fuck, Rossco's gone down that path, and you've been there ever since, right? The last couple of years, so.
Right. Yeah. Like any entrepreneur, I liken myself to a Indiana Jones. I love an adventure and
right.
to go, jumping down some crazy rabbit hole, dodging boulders that's swinging at us and whatnot. When I met you, I was working mostly as like a kind of sales and marketing coach. We had a co-working space down at Tweed. I had corporate consulting coaching clients. That was probably the predominant part. I had teams that were doing 10 to 30 mil a year that I was helping with actually leadership challenges, funnily enough. And then I had a lot of small and micro business owners figuring out how to package, position, and sell their first stuff. And what actually happened, the way or reason in which I got into crypto is I was kind of I'd had enough with clients and FaceTime and everything like that. Right. So what I did was I was like, all right, let's figure out how to do something, a way to make money where I don't have to deal with people. And I think that this is where most people go chasing wealth creation, is they're how do I make more money without putting in more time and have it come effortlessly more than my expenses? And that's most people's definition of wealth, right? Mm-hmm. And so I kind of did that moment, but it's kind of a fool's errand too, right? Because you go chasing like this fantasy that
It's
it's all going to be great. It's all going to be.
Is this going to be the next thing again?
Yeah.
Like as you do in the entrepreneurial journey, you're trying to find your feet. I mean, when I first sort of realized that I was an entrepreneur, actually, I gave myself permission to go and play the entrepreneurial game. I think it's probably a better way to put it.
Yeah.
I was doing everything from affiliate marketing to websites to this to that to blogging to trying to figure it out. But so you got to a point where it was probably the right timing where cryptocurrency because cryptocurrency's been around for a long time, right?
11 years.
Yeah, 11 years. So it's been around, and was it formed? And you can fill me in on the gaps here because I'm definitely a novice when it comes to this. Why was cryptocurrency even created? Give us a bit of an understanding about that. For someone listening, going, I don't even know what the bloody hell really cryptocurrency is. I've heard it, and the word Bitcoin rings a bell. Right. Give us what is cryptocurrency? Why was it created?
So in 2008, we had the GFC, right? Like the global financial crisis. And there was a group of cryptographers that were trying to figure out how do we create a new money system? Because when you think about computers, right, you're playing kind of infinite games in an infinite world. Like I can create a podcast, and this podcast, we can copy and paste it onto like millions of platforms, and we can do all sorts of stuff with it. But what you couldn't do in a digital world is you couldn't have a finite asset. You couldn't have a singular, like you couldn't have something that couldn't be copy and pasted. And essentially Bitcoin was like the first iteration of money, but it was creating something that couldn't be stolen or copy and pasted by someone else. It was creating a finite asset in an infinite digital world. And that's kind of like what got cracked, but it's the same thing that we've been doing with money since we were, like born as creatures on the planet. Like trying to figure out how do we exchange value and all that kind of stuff. Like the current accepted normal of money in the world is like paper money is like the most accepted normal. And that's pulp from a tree. Like, how is that?
Yeah. It's because we as a society have decided that we agree upon this a way in order for us to do commerce, right? Back in the day, it was like, I'll give you one sharp rock if you give me an apple. Oh, cool. I can use a sharp rock to create something, a tool out of, right? But
exactly.
But now, and the correct term, I guess, for cash, right? That's the current fiat, right? Is what we're currently operating from. You could argue though, and you could say, well, we've certainly turned Australia, especially not as much America, but turned into a world of FPOS transaction, right? Which is a digital transaction.
We're mostly
anyway,
digital
right?
already, right? Yeah.
So it's like, what's the difference between cryptocurrency and for the ability for me to tap and go on my card? Like,
yeah. So one thing you just like rewind.
And if I've jumped 50 steps forward,
I'm going to rewind 15 seconds. You said that basically it's an accepted norm that we agreed that this money thing was this.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what money is. It's social contracts represented by like this thing that we have as a representative, right? So the current representative, like in Australia, as you say, is FPOS or Tap and Go or PayPass or, like we're getting new neobanks like Up or 86400 or whatever it is, or, like all these different neobanks where now you can send money to a cash tag. So you can send money to like $Rossco, like as like a Twitter handle. These are all accepted normals. But what people don't understand about money is when you spend a US dollar, there's a whole lot of social contracts going on underneath that. Versus if you spend like a North Korean dollar, right? That has a whole bunch. Break that
down for me.
Well, I mean, it carries intent. It carries all sorts of stuff. Right. Like this stuff, and like if I spent it's like the whole Blood Diamond movie, right? Like if you are making money out of diamonds, but you're putting kids into slavery to get the diamond out, then you got wealthy off the backs of kids that are being hurt, right? Not good. When it comes to like your PayPass and your Tap and Go and all these kind of things, the banking system is quite an interesting machine. And we've seen in Australia like recently, and not to go dark at all, but we recently saw Westpac get billions of dollars worth of fines, just cop a speeding ticket compared to their profits, for allowing terrorists and child traffickers and all these types of people to move their money through their bank, and they got a parking fine for allowing it to happen. So Tap and Go might seem convenient, but it's like is it good for the world?
Right.
You know,
so the institutions that govern
Yeah.
this body, there's always something underlying, right?
And someone listening to this will be like, but yeah, Bitcoin's used by terrorists, or like that.
Well,
that'll be the next
probably
thing.
is, right? And I mean, we can
No,
get
the
to
number
that.
one currency used by terrorists is US dollars, but
Right. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
that's the international currency. But I think
Container loads.
I think what's happening is like we're going through this new boom. You remember when we went through the personal branding boom 10 years ago? Like everyone was like, I'm going to get my personal profile on my website and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like they even 20, it was even longer. It's 15 years ago, right? We went through this boom, and we're going to go through a boom of different types of currencies where they have different intentions. They mean different things. We're going to have like a vegan bodybuilder coin, like with all these different sorts of social contracts that come with the money.
Yeah.
So
That's where I get super confused.
yeah, it's confusing.
And I probably start to tap out, right? So for me, I can understand Bitcoin, right? Let's just use that. That's one coin out of so many, right? And I'm just going to lay my knowledge out on the table here, which again is very limited. And probably not even about my knowledge, more so about how I could reconcile how this works and how I think it could work moving forward, right? So we got the dollar.
Yep.
Right, and I know there's never just a fair and equal trade of $1 equals 1 Bitcoin, right? Because everything has different gradings and so forth.
Yeah.
But I could understand, like a Bitcoin coming out and it's worth X amount. So for example, I've got literally a few $1,000s of Bitcoin that I just sort of jumped on the train with, right? So didn't know nothing about it. I'm like, it sounds like it. Cool, I've wasted a lot more money on the TAB or something before, so let's just have a stab. I can understand the metric of it because I know that the currency is, if you just look at the progression of currency has changed. And so I'm like, well, if I can have, and this is not the accurate number, but just for my own basic maths, $1 equals, let's just say a Bitcoin.
Yep.
And I can go, okay, well, I'm going to now go and use Bitcoin as my currency to exchange. But then all of a sudden there's like 50 other coins, 100 other coins.
Thousands
of other coins out. And then I'm like, they're all got different values. They're all valued at something differently.
Yeah.
And then it's like, how can this start to become a thing? Are we going to be utilizing multiple different currencies like that, or is it going to dilute itself out to maybe one or two coins? Even that sounds complex to me, using multiple different types of coins.
Right. Yeah, I think money.
Try and unravel what the fuck I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
there.
well,
it's confusing.
No, it's cool, and most people do this. Is there's domains collapsed, right? We've got the value of it as one piece. We've got the utility of it as another piece. So the utility piece, like, let's isolate that for a second. How do I spend the thing and know what it's worth at the point at which I transact? Yeah. Right? All of the, like in Australia already, you can grab like a WireX card or like a, what's the other one? I'm trying to think of it off the top of my head. Like a My Crypto card, right? And you can just tap and go with the card, and you can use it on your phone. You can use it all the same ways you normally would. So you can transact, you can pay in Bitcoin end to end in Australia right now. Like that's possible. The next thing is like the valuation piece, right? Like it's like, because a Bitcoin, it was once worth 11 cents. As of today, like it's in excess of,
it's up to close to 18,000
US
right now, which is 24,600 Aussie.
Right.
24,700 just went up another Andy.
It does that.
It's very volatile.
Yeah, and so that's interesting though, right? The word volatile. So when we think of a transactional account in a business or a savings account in a business, we want stable currencies that are getting us stable returns. And then when we think about long-term investment accounts, we start to look for more volatile assets that can get us growth that will outpace the way in which we're earning money in other domains of life. So, there's been this thing actually, funnily enough. So 2017, the market had a huge correction. It went up to about the prices we're at now, and it plummeted down, like it had a 60% volatile price correction. Yeah. But what came out of that was the most dollars that are transacted each day in the market for the whole year of 2018 and 19 wasn't Bitcoin, wasn't Ethereum. It was a stable coin. It was Tether, which had one stable coin equals $1.
Right.
And so we're starting to see, and we've got all sorts of other stable coins that have started to splinter
out. And what do you
out.
mean by stable coin? What's that mean?
One unit represents $1, literally. So it is literally stable to the dollar. And then that way you experience it like you experience money, how you grew up.
Yes.
Like
like you're not going to wake up tomorrow and 20% of your money's gone, right? And that's the issue that I'm seeing right now with the coins. I mean, I'm probably not vested in it enough to check it every day and really care. I'm just happy that it's back up now, like, because I literally bought in, and I bought in after I seen about 1 billion posts. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to buy some. And then maybe a month or so later, it went, there goes Bitcoin. I was like, oh, that wasn't a good bet.
Yeah.
But now it's back. But before we jump off on there, explain the value of cryptocurrency itself and the blockchain.
Okay, so blockchain has got a separate value to cryptocurrencies because every single cryptocurrency has a different value proposition.
Yes.
So there's thousands, but I can give you some containers. Blockchain technology solves a problem, and it's a mental model problem from Silicon Valley known as the Byzantine generals problem, which is
the
Byzantine generals problem.
Byzantine, okay.
Which is literally like if I had a castle, right, and the only way I could beat this castle with its big walls was to attack all four sides at the exact same time. Mm-hmm. So I had to coordinate an army, and if it was in the olden days, I couldn't coordinate that army. Like, if I sent a horseman with a message to one of the other armies, literally that horseman could be captured. Yeah. The message might be violated, like it couldn't be proven. So the Byzantine generals problem that Bitcoin solved was all of those armies that are around the castle can be solving a math problem at the same time to verify that the message is true and correct. And the message in the case of blockchain is a ledger. It's like Brett has 1 coin, Rossco has 1 coin, Dave has 24 coins, whatever it might be.
That's unfair.
Poor Dave.
Mate, when you make up stories, you make sure we have the most coins. Fucking bloody Dave. 24 coins.
I can imagine what you would have been like. You were the banker when you played Monopoly, right?
Mate, and I robbed the bank like you do not believe.
Bankers do that.
Yeah. Do not pass go, but you're going to collect $400.
Yeah, totally.
I learned early. But so the blockchain, because I still don't truly understand the blockchain itself. I hear these words, blockchain, Bitcoin, crypto.
Yeah, I mean, blockchain will be
everyone on Facebook talking about how great it is, but it's like
it's technology. It's like I mean, you're a marketer at heart. Like, you get this, right? You don't tell someone you're going to send an SMTP protocol campaign. You say, like, we're going to do an EDM or an email marketing campaign. Like. Right now, when you hear blockchain or you hear Bitcoin or you hear all these phrases, it's jargon for nerds. Mm-hmm. It's jargon for nerds who are building the new money Legos of the world, in which they're going to create the new banking system out of. Right. But these are all jargon words. We're so early still. Like, it's just like you're hearing double Dutch from a world of nerds.
So blockchain essentially is what you might just call, or you might have a similarity to the bank. It's like it's where it's all held. It's the source of where these coins live. Is that right?
Yeah, the source of where it lives is in a decentralized network. Mm-hmm. So the fact that the four armies are doing the math at the same time means that the ledger exists concurrently in multiple places. Yep. So in the case of Bitcoin, there's miners, which there's hundreds of thousands of miners around the world, constantly plugged into the network, doing the little math problems. It's literally so there's 21 million Bitcoins that'll ever exist. Yep. And each block that is verified, there's a tiny little bit more Bitcoin that's released into the network until we hit that 21 million. And we'll hit that 21 million like in 100 years' time, right?
So why 21 million? Who made that decision?
There's a random number. It's like, it's not a Satoshi Nakamoto, the pseudonymous person who made Bitcoin, pluck that number.
Okay.
Out of his bum.
So there's a guy. So there's a guy who decided to create a coin, and now he's set the rules around it. What's stopping Sakimoto to go? Actually, 48 million coins. I'm going to open it up a bit more.
He can't because of the algorithm that the miners have. So he doesn't control the network.
Right.
So the network is controlled by what's called consensus. Okay. So the fact that everyone agrees that this is the math problem, and there's hundreds of thousands of miners who are all agreed to the math problem. So they're not going to. And they can change, and that's called a fork, and they can segment and create their own Bitcoin. And we have like 7 different types of Bitcoin now. You only actually want Bitcoin. You don't want any of the other crappy. Yeah.
Is that like Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin?
SV, okay. And so, they've got different propositions.
Okay, so you said there's 21 million coins ever going to be created because that's an agreed upon number, right? Cool. And you said miners release the amount of coins. How many coins are in circulation right now?
Oh, like 17, 18 million. I don't know the exact count.
Okay, so let's call it 17. What determines the rest of the coins being released in?
So it's actually what's called the halvening. So there's literally an amount that happens each block. So every like 12 minutes, there's this many that come out. And then that number will halve every 3 years until we reach the full distribution of them.
And what happens when we reach full distribution, do you think? What's the...
people will just be paid in transaction fees. So right now, the miners, they're making money from transaction fees and mining the blocks. So like unlocking the Bitcoin, they get that Bitcoin if they unlock it as a miner.
So how do you unlock Bitcoin? Like if I want to be a miner, and just so people know, it's not the person wearing a hat going underground digging bloody coal up here. So it's just the terminology. We're learning a new language as well, team.
Yeah.
How does someone become a miner? What are you going to do?
You got to buy a piece
miner?
of hardware.
Okay.
So there's a Bitcoin miner is like a little metal box with 2 jet engine fans on either end. It's got an Ethernet plug in the front of it. If you've ever been to a mining farm, it sounds like you're in a wind tunnel with jet engines all around.
And where do you buy them?
You buy them online.
Okay, how much do they cost?
I wouldn't recommend just going out and buying a miner, listeners.
we'll get there.
Just like, it's not the holy grail. Like, that's not the move necessarily. But look, I mean, you can buy it online. There's Antminers, like this industry standard. That's a Chinese manufacturer. They're not very nice. They're hard to deal with.
So let's say we've got our mining device, right?
Yep.
We've got our rig here.
Yep.
What does then one do to go, I want to connect to this source or whatever this thing is?
So you plug it into the internet, plug an Ethernet cable into the miner, plug it into the power, turn it on, and you download the latest version of the mining software that's agreed by the network. You choose what's called a mining pool. You log into the mining pool, and you let it run. It's just a noisy machine that runs, and it's constantly solving math problems, like a complex cryptographic math problem. Boring.
Why does it have to solve problems to release money?
So that we can know the message is true all around the network, always. So all of the miners are constantly solving a complex math problem so that we can know that the ledger is true and correct at all times.
So why would we not go and buy a heap of those and get a commercial building and fucking have
Because power is way too expensive in Australia. So you need to be paying less than...
So the ROI is not good.
The ROI is great if you get free power. You need free power.
And then now...
Okay, but hold on.
Now Sparkies. All my Sparky mates.
Okay, hold on. Let me. I've chased a few holy grails in my Indiana games, right? So the problem is you put 5 of these miners on it, and it sucks the juice of an entire household.
Okay.
Right, but that's not going to make you more than like maybe $15-20 per machine per day, and it's going to eat the power bill faster than that in Australia. So you need to be paying less than 5 cents per kilowatt hour.
Okay.
And solar doesn't cut it because you need like football fields to put 100 miners
battery?
on. I mean,
so
it's going to
pass on that idea.
Yeah, but I mean, it works in places like Iceland, or where they've got large hydro dams, or where they've got nuclear power, where they've got an excess of power off the back of power plants. The game is actually finding free to cheap, like couple of cents kilowatt hour power,
or hook into the grid. You can,
or just I don't know, go to Bali, throw a rope over the fence.
Because Sheraton's power bill has tripled this month, and there's a large noise coming from
people have been to jail
for
for like plugging a bunch of them in like server rooms of different corporations and stuff, and like there's some funny stories out there.
So let's pass on the mining, being a miner. I want to talk about where the current state of cryptocurrency is.
It's moving towards a space specifically known as DeFi, which stands for decentralized finance.
Okay.
And so it's basically like all of the fancy things Wall Street can do is happening inside of this math, inside what's called a smart contract in a piece of code.
Okay.
So I can do things like lending and borrowing.
Yep.
Right? So let's say, I have this water bottle. Let's say it's worth $5.
Yeah.
I could give you this water bottle as collateral in a crypto world.
Yep.
And you could say, I'll give you $1 loan against it, Rossco, because the water's worth $5. I'll go, thanks. I'll take the stable coin, the dollar. And if I don't pay the loan back, you have custody over this, and you can sell the water bottle for $5 and be made whole and, take your profit. Mm-hmm. But we can do that peer-to-peer without an intermediary in a contract. And we don't even have to talk to each other. You don't have to chase anyone up for loans, all that kind of stuff.
And what if I say I want to use Litecoin or Ethereum or...
there's different ones that are available in different smart contracts right now. Like DeFi is expanding, and you have tens of thousands of different crypto collaterals. But you know, the primary ones that are used are like Ethereum and Bitcoin, and you know, like they're the primaries for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, like everything that can be done in Wall Street. So like lending and borrowing, credit, you know, like all sorts of fancy flash loans, like all weird stuff's coming.
That all makes sense to me when you're basing it off a currency that is the same thing, right? But again, I understand it works in, you know, Europe. They've got the pound, right? Or over in London, you know, England, it's the pound, and here it's the Australian dollar, and in America it's the American dollar, and they all have different values as well.
Right.
But we also, there's not like 10,000 of them, right? That we're sort of dealing with here. That's where I get stuck on this crypto stuff.
Let's like completely and utterly just change the dial for a second, right? Let's say one of your clients, right? They're like got a marketing organization. Think about what would be possible if money was a form of marketing. You know, have you ever been to like Disneyland or somewhere where you get like Disney bucks, or like you go into like a bar and you have to buy the bar dollars at the bar, you know, like literally money as a form of marketing is where it's going. This is where this thing's going. We will have, you have the cashback dollars when you go and fill up your petrol, you get your 4 cents off a litre.
Yeah.
What if you were getting, what if you were building like a Coles Myer dollars or a this dollars or a that dollars? We've seen this in like airline rewards and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Like money as a form of marketing is something that's going to come down the pipeline. Not right away, but that's where this will play out for especially your field, like where you'll see it show up. But the other way it'll happen too is it'll happen in all the ways that you're unaware of. Like the way your app works will start using blockchain tech and you won't even know. It'll just work the same as you used to. Like your money will start using it and you won't even know. Like Australia's right now, the government's looking at doing what's called a central backed digital currency, right? Which is a stable coin that's owned by the government. So they'll start paying out things like new start allowance and the dollar and stuff in a blockchain dollar. Eventually, that's coming at some point.
But will it always come back to be valued based off the current US dollar as the central?
It'll just come back to whatever the user bases their value off. So meaning,
because it's like if we go to Bali, right?
Yeah.
I need 100,000. What's the
Indonesian rupiah? Yeah.
Rupiah for $10.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so it's like that. The disconnect between that is sort of like, I don't want to go and buy this Voss bottle of water and need 84,000, Voss coins. It's and that's where I think it's hard.
There's a disconnect there for
there's
sure.
There's a massive disconnect for the majority of the population.
But if you buy, like, let's say
if it was
the
like
Voss,
5 Voss coins or $5,
right,
then we're working off a very similar structure.
What if I said to you if you could buy the Voss for a 20% discount if you bought it with the Voss coin?
Well, it depends what the value of the Voss coin is, right?
Right, but if I just basically said 20% discount off your current dollar, so instead of paying Aussie dollars, pay Voss dollars, and you get a 20% discount instead of paying it with Aussie dollars, right? And then you've got this stupid step where you've got to buy Voss coin. I'm not saying this is great, by the way.
Sure.
Right? I'm just saying this is where it's going. Because what happens is Voss now can print its own money.
Yeah.
They can expand the supply of Voss, get people paying in Voss coin, and then they can have a little exchange where they run it back out and they get to play all sorts of economic games that Wall Street pays without money right now in the Forex markets.
Yeah, and I guess business is already doing this with like Amex, the credit rewards, and it's already essentially happening because
it's there.
But it all comes back to, again, this comparison of an even dollar. So for example, let's take Virgin for example, right?
Yeah.
So I got so many points there that I haven't been able to use this year because I haven't been able to fly. Thanks for that. But it's like 5,000 Virgin points and you can get a free upgrade to business. So I look at it and I go, okay, an upgrade to business from Gold Coast to Sydney is like, it would cost you $600, $700.
Yeah.
But I can use 5,000 points for that.
Right.
So I'm automatically valuing that 5,000 points at $600.
Right.
But then I can go and buy a $60 fucking vacuum cleaner and it's like 4,000 points, and I'm like, that just doesn't make sense, right? The value, and that's what it comes back to.
But the value version is an empty seat, and you and I both know that as business owners.
Correct. It's not worth $600.
Right. It's not worth $600 to them. The plane's still going from A to B. It's actually worth $0 to them in its current form. Right. Yeah. And this is where marketing dollars and economic games, you get some fancy.
It's value dollars, right?
Yeah.
It's what would someone pay for it, and what do we need to end up, or what are we going out of pocket with?
Yeah.
It's a crazy world. Where's explain the next 12 months of Bitcoin? Like, for someone who's like, I've been interested in Bitcoin, should I buy some, should I not buy some? What should people be doing with Bitcoins right now? I reached out to you a few weeks ago and I was like, dude, I've got Bitcoin. I got no fucking idea how to get it out. Like I just signed up with Coinbase in America, I think it was, and then I buy Bitcoin and it goes up. I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, go to withdraw and it goes, oh, you can't do it in Australia. I'm like, what the fuck? Oh, they basically trapped my money. Right. So what should people do right now with if they're looking to get into Bitcoin, and then if they've got some, I'm already calling it Bitcoin, right? But cryptocurrency.
Yeah. Look, I mean, you're not the only one.
Well, no, of course.
So what you got to remember with cryptocurrency, and if you don't already know this yet, it's okay, but you need to know this from here on out, is that cryptocurrency is all about custody. So if you literally think about it like custody with kids, right? Mm-hmm. Like, this is like something we know. Like, people have custody over their children, right? When you deposit your money or purchase it in an exchange like a Coinbase, and you purchase it in there and it stays in Coinbase's walled garden, then you've got your babies in someone else's house, right? And in Bitcoin specifically, what you want to do is you want to get it into what's called self-custody, right? So you want to get it into a wallet that you control and that you own. So if you're looking to buy and hold Bitcoin for the long term, you want to get your own wallet. Now, there's different types of wallets, which is it's all complex. This stuff is complex, right? Yeah. Like, someone listening to this going, wow, this is like, oh, there's this and there's this and there's this. It's like I actually heard you recently on a podcast. You had the LinkedIn podcast, and you said, for people to get on video, it takes courage and it just takes capability. And capability is just like getting in front of the camera and just record and record and record and do it. That's what crypto is, dude. It's the same thing. Like, you've got to take a tiny fraction of courage, get a little bit, do a thing, learn a thing, wait a minute. Yeah. It was like when we got computers, like, no one knew how to use a computer to begin with, and then you just had to play with it. You had to play with it. You had to give yourself permission to stuff up. Yeah. Now we're playing with money now. Yeah. So permission to stuff up's got to be, you got to be very careful because it has a real impact.
I mean, there was a lot of people who went all in on it, because before it popped, right? I almost felt like, geez, how much should I buy here? I'm like, this does seem like it could be the next big coin. My intuition was telling me that, we have to go through a few ups and downs, I think, before we really truly understand what this was. But man, I literally seen people posting on Facebook going, yeah, I've put 50 grand, I've put 200 grand, I've mortgaged my house to go on, and I'm like, holy shit! Yeah. And then all of a sudden you've just lost half of everything that you've put in.
Are you an Indiana Jones fan?
I don't mind Indiana Jones.
You know The Last Crusade, where they go into the room with the Holy Grails?
Yes.
And the dude runs up. He's like, which glass should I get? Which cup should I get? Like, which one's going to have eternal life? And he reaches out and he grabs the shiniest, most beautiful, the most sparkles and the most diamonds and rubies and whatever, puts it in the well, and he drinks it. And of course, he shrivels up and dies. Like, he gets old really quick and all that sort of stuff. And when it comes to wealth creation, whether it's crypto or the latest whiz-bang investment, right? Everyone always runs for the bright, shiny object. Yeah. And the one that gave Harrison Ford, like Indy, the, eternal life and saved the dude who was dying, like the dad or whatever, was the carpenter's mug. It was the dumb and boring looking wooden chalice. Yeah. That's where wealth creation happens, right? And so when it comes to Bitcoin, should you throw the whole house in the game? Hey, look, you've seen too many of these posts of like, what would you tell your younger self? And everyone says, buy Bitcoin. Yeah. But actually, that could have been the dumbest thing, because you might have bought it at $20,000.
Yeah, wrong time, yeah.
Yeah, right? So this is the point, is like, first things first, you Warren Buffett says this great. You test the depth of the water you don't test the depth of the water with both feet. You can't put the whole game on the line because you found something new. Yeah.
When I was a kid, we used to jump out of trees into the river, and we always had a mate who would get to test it first. Just to see if it was deep enough. One day he jumped out of the tree, comes in with a rusty old wheelbarrow.
it was that mate. I ended up with stitches in my foot hitting a rock.
Yeah, everyone needs someone like you. And that's what you're doing right now, right?
Totally, dude. Like, I mean, I've made all the mistakes in the world with this stuff and with different entrepreneurial things. But as we know, it's about like wealth is all made in compounding interest. Whether it's done in crypto or savings or property or whatever, it's all made in compounding interest. It's all made in long-term games with long-term people, long-term strategies. It's not about quick, easy wins. Yeah. Wealth done right is a boring damn carpenter's mug. It's ugly, it's boring, but it's satisfying if you can be patient and just keep going. Because
there's, I guess, a few ways you could play the crypto market right now, and very similar to what you'd do if you're investing in businesses or even property, etc. Is you can play the long game and you just go and buy a bit of it right now, and watch it grow over time, right? Or you can get in, and there's people who actually trade. Right, they're literally trading coins, buying and selling.
Trading is a great skill. Trading is like an amazing skill. Yeah. You want to learn more about emotional management as an entrepreneur? I would recommend learning to trade volatile currencies. Would be the best thing to learn emotional management as an entrepreneur. Because what you do when you're trading, right, is you're saying, I think this thing over here is going to happen. Yeah. And it's either going to happen or it's not. There's no false positives. Yeah. Whereas in business, you can have false positives. You can put out ad copy and you can get buyers straight away, but those buyers have been on your list for years. They've been waiting for an offer. That doesn't tell you that the offer is actually good until you've driven enough traffic at it and all this sort of stuff. Like, we know this in business, but you can get false positives in other areas of life. In trading, you make a guess. You go, I think it's going to be this many dollars on this day at this time. Yeah. And you're either right or you're wrong. And so it teaches you, it humbles the ego because, like, I'm only right 62% of the time. You figure out a win-loss ratio. Yeah. Like, you're like, I'm only right 60% of the time, so I still got to be open, to thinking about.
And that takes a lot of time and dedication to do any type of trading. It's not, you don't log in once a morning or once every couple of days.
It's a carpenter's cup. It's a craft.
So what dictates then the current pricing of it? So we're currently sitting at 24,700 for the Bitcoin here in Australia.
This is going to be only speculative thoughts, right? So my speculative thoughts on this is that to hold the US dollar is risky is the main reason. We have an economic climate that is unsure of what the hell's going on. We have a presidency contentious issue, around that. We have a pandemic. We have all sorts of things. The economy is way overcooked, and what happened is they just started printing money, and everything's going up in price. People are making more money, so it's doing the reverse. So people are like, I don't trust my long-term savings in a money that's just being printed day on day. So we're seeing the likes of like Reid Hoffman, who owns LinkedIn. He owns a company called Grayscale Investments. They own like 15,000 Bitcoins that they bought last week, and that's adding to their stack of like 460,000 Bitcoins they own as a fund that they're growing. Right. Like, we've got some of the smartest actors in the world getting further and deeper.
The Winklevoss boys, who were apparently the poor people who got Facebook stolen off them from Mark Zuckerberg, weren't they worth about 11 billion Bitcoin or something like that? Their currency exchange to that. Yeah. But it changes. Like, if I'm sitting there and I'm one of those guys, right, and I go, you know what, let's pull out $1 billion in cash right now. Mm-hmm. Right, so we can transfer this Bitcoin into cash. That's going to massively disrupt the value of the market.
There's OTC markets. So there's all sorts
I told you I didn't know fuck all.
Yeah, no, it's all good. There's all sorts of OTC markets. There's trading desks that do $400 to $800 million a day in off-market Bitcoin to cash deals. Like, we have big ones, like in Singapore and New York and that kind of stuff, where you can go in there and you can buy large sums of Bitcoin at a time if you want to buy it. Because you don't want to buy it on the order books of Binance or Coinbase if you're going to go buy $5 million worth of coins. Because what happens is the order book gets chewed up and you start paying a premium for the Bitcoin right away. So you want to set a strike price with a trading desk, like an OTC desk.
Fuck, you're speaking gibberish.
Gibberish.
I'm sure it's making sense.
Buy it off market.
Buy it off market. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, we got there.
Don't pay full price. That's the marketing slogan.
I'll ask the basic 101 question. So what was the main reason why it tanked the first time round, like recently? I guess that's not the first time round it's ever dropped, but the big, I can't remember the date, you'll know it for sure.
Right.
I'm sure you're impacted. Not to rub it in, sorry. I was impacted too. Maybe just not, I wasn't in as much as you. But what caused that? What sort of things might have caused it?
Okay, so if we look at market cycles, Bitcoin's done a run about every 3 to 3.5 years since it's begun.
Right.
It has a new all-time high, and then it never goes back to where its previous all-time low was. That's what it's done historically. I'm not saying that's what it'll do in the future.
Right.
So market cycles could be one force that we could claim to it, but basically a market cycle reaches a peak because there's hyperbole.
Yeah.
Which is people, I'm mortgaging my house, I'm doing this,
Everyone
I'm going to throw
it.
everything out of there. I got my self-managed super, I got this, I got that. That's hype. When we reach peak hype, a market usually corrects because people start going, hold on, I don't want to pay that much for it. That's silly, that's overpriced. And so it's just market forces. Like if we're really honest, that's what it is. And so it was overvalued too early in the game and it corrects in price. It's not saying that it wasn't worth it.
So we didn't have enough miners mining it?
No, it's not that at all.
Nah?
It wasn't accepted in enough places for exchange.
Okay.
It wasn't.
And that's probably why, because it was
But now I can check out at Coles with Bitcoin. I can do that.
Coles you can now?
Yeah, because you can use a Wirex card or a MyCrypto card, which is just a Visa. So I can use it anywhere.
Right.
I can use
Do
it
you
anywhere
use
now.
Bitcoin?
No. I like stablecoins because I don't like volatile games.
Right.
Like stablecoins is where it's at for me. This whole decentralized finance, the ability to do like lending and borrowing, and I'd prefer to get 8% per annum for the rest of my life than try and get 8% next month. Like
How do you get 8% per annum?
Lending and borrowing, like over collateralized stablecoin loans, is very possible.
So give me an example of that.
That's that water bottle example before. That's a trader says, I want to make more Bitcoin, so I'm going to lock my Bitcoin up, draw down a loan against it so I can get leverage. And they'll go trade with that, and then they'll come back and pay off their loan. If they don't come back
8%,
right, and if they don't come back and pay off their loan, then the thing is liquidated to make you whole.
Yeah. So is that how you're making money right now with Bitcoin?
That's how I'm helping most people to do it.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a dumb and boring game, and most people don't find that super sexy. But
it's not dumb and boring to spend money. Right. Sometimes, but okay. So
we will see, and you may see present company involved in the next couple of years. We'll see a bank in Australia. We can deposit Aussie dollars and earn 8% per annum. You won't even know that it's using stable coins in the background.
So what is a stable coin? How do I buy some stable coin?
You've got to go through crypto exchanges right now still.
Yeah.
So in Australia, if we're going to buy...
Can't see my phone. Let's buy some coin.
Well, there's a few barriers to entry in crypto right now still. So you've
Independent Reserve, is that where you buy it? That's where you told me to buy it, right?
Have you got an account with
Yeah,
them?
mate, when I messaged you...
Yeah, you got the account?
I did that because I was using Coinbase.
So on
I got
Independent
Trust, which is my wallet, which I still need to verify so I can get the money out. I started the process. At least I know now.
After the show, I'll
Yeah, well, it's like now I've got to upload a photo of me holding shit, and I'm like, I just haven't gotten around to that.
Send your best dick pic.
Yeah. Geez, YFI, $40,000.
Yeah, Yiffy.
So tell me, what's the stable
So
coin?
Yearn Finance only has 30,000 coins in circulation versus 21 million.
Right.
So that's why they're a stupidly high price. And they also
Why do
have
more and more coins get created though? Like how? Who's?
Let me ask you this
As
question:
the person
do you
who
like
makes the coin?
Do you like the idea as a business of like turning on an ad campaign and being able to print money on demand?
Well, it's not a bad outcome.
Finance guys like the same thing.
So you just go and create your own coin, and hopefully you get enough people go, "Oh, that's a cool coin."
You got to create an economic game to go with the coin. You can't just have like no sort of like reasoning behind it.
Well, what are the economic games for most of these coins?
Okay, so let's do a random scroll and grab one. Grab one. Comp. Okay, this is Compound. Compound.finance is literally their website.
Do you know every fucking coin or just these top ones?
Or did I just give you? Really good. That was good.
I just saved you a handball.
You did. You saved me a handball. Thanks for that. Oh, you.
And it's up
literally
2% today.
It's literally so it's the governance token. This is going to get weird.
Okay, let's go. See if I can hold on. Go. I need to focus.
This is a governance token which owns what's called the Compound protocol. Now, Compound does the thing we were talking about before. It lends and borrows stablecoins for interest, right? It created a smart contract. That protocol gets a little fee out of the 8% or whatever, right?
Okay.
Now, the Comp token if I hold the comp token, I own a piece of the compound business.
Yeah.
And it's what's called a DAO. So it's a decentralized autonomous organization, which means I have a vote, like a shareholder vote, in a company.
Right.
And comp will make decisions as a company, as a DAO. And if I hold certain amount, every coin represents a vote.
Okay.
So the more coins I hold, the more I can control the protocol. Shit gets weird in this domain.
Interesting. Yeah. So I've still got an open loop in my head.
Okay, yeah, it's buying stable coins.
Yeah.
Right?
Is this stable coin the name like a Bitcoin? Is it the name
I'm
or
gonna,
is stable coin?
I'm going to tell you about 3 stable
category?
coins. I'm going to tell you 3 stable coins because there's heaps.
So stable coins is not an actual coin; it's a category of.
It's a category of coins.
Okay,
cool.
That's probably the loop that I was forgetting.
Yep, good. I'm going to tell you 3 different types of stable coins.
Okay.
Just to broaden.
Yep.
The circle of information.
Let's go.
See, there's 3 types that I'm going to tell you. One is called Tether, right? This is the one at USDT.
USDT.
That's the one that does the most volume out of all of the stable coins right now.
Yep, $282,000 worth of volume. What does that mean?
That's volume on independent reserve. That's how many dollars have gone through in USDT in the last 24 hours.
Okay.
Right?
Of people buying
or selling, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, overall volume.
Right.
So USDT is a black box. No one kind of knows how it works. It's a private system that says that they have the money in the back that banks it. USDT is not my favorite stablecoin.
Right. Reverse back out of that.
But I mean, it's widely used and there's lots of volume. It's fine for short-term transactions. Like if you're going to buy it and quickly spend it, it's totally fine. There's 2 other stablecoins I want to share. One is called USDC. So this is the one created by Coinbase. Okay, USDC is FDIC insured, which is like the American, finance insurance stuff. And basically, each account is insured for a decent sum of money, like a couple $100,000 kind of thing. And so USDC is actually banked in a bank account. It's all verified. It's very trustworthy, and it's insured. Okay. Then there's one other stablecoin that I think is the piece de resistance.
So before you get to that, just to give clarity, that USD coin and why it's
USDC,
a stable,
yep.
Yeah, the USD coin that you're talking about. The reason why it's a stable coin is because its price is 1.3, so it's as close to an even.
It's 1.3 on independent reserve. Don't buy it on there.
Right.
It's worth $1. Well, I mean, no, it's $1 US. So that's probably accurate.
Yeah,
actually.
1.3 US. Yeah, that'll be Australian.
That's
coming
Aussie.
through.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so not used to looking at Aussie exchanges.
And the Tether is 1.38, so that is a dollar for dollar.
And then DAI, so DAI. This is the best
1.36.
This is the best stablecoin in my opinion. Now
Okay.
the reason for this is
some big jump.
is it's completely decentralized.
Right.
So USDC is in a bank account in America, controlled by American regulators, and if Coinbase does anything wrong in the eyes of the states, they can just shut it down.
Okay.
Right? They've also banned certain addresses that hold USDC from bad actors, which is good. That's good policing, but they've just shut the money down. So DAI is unstoppable. It's like Bitcoin. You can't stop someone from holding the stablecoin DAI. So this is why it's my favorite.
Right.
Because it's like the most sovereign or self-secure version.
But this DAI price, because it's at comparative dollar to dollar. You're not going to buy this and it's going to go up to $5.
No,
you're going to make money.
No.
So you're not.
But you can use something like Compound and earn a percentage of interest on it. You can deposit your DAI into something like Compound that we just spoke about before.
Okay, so you're more looking at this as a future currency to utilize and trade.
We'll have an
transact.
AUD version of DAI inside the next 2 years.
Right, where a lot of people are looking at Bitcoin going, I'm going to buy in on this because this is a value. This goes up in value where the stable coins don't.
They don't, but you can do things like over collateralized lending and borrowing where it's safe and secure and earn 8% per annum. Better than the way the money is in the bank. Because when you deposit your money into the bank right now, we live in what's called a fractional reserve banking system, which means the bank's allowed to lend like 10, 20 times the amount of money it has on deposit. Which means if the bank has $100 in it, it can go and do loans for thousands of dollars because of a reserve bank promise note.
Yes.
Right? So the
bank doesn't.
The banking doesn't actually have that money. Right? And they just, you know what they just reduced the levels to in 2018 while no one was watching, everyone was asleep? 0% collateral required by banks.
Yeah, right.
Zero.
Right, from banks.
From banks. They don't have to have any money to lend money.
Yeah.
In this country. And they also have this thing called a bail-in law. If the bank's going to go broke, the bank has the right, they need 2 ticks. They need the economic climate to be in recession, and then they need to go to the Reserve Bank and say, hey, we're going to go broke if you don't help us And then they have the right to steal from their customers, which is what's called a bail-in, and the bail-in laws were passed in Australia. And they can go and take back from people's bank accounts to make the bank whole again. Right? Like the banker in Monopoly.
Buying. I had an aggressive buying strategy too. I'd land on everything, even the shitty waterworks ones. I'm like, buying. I want that $60 brown one, dirty brown one, buying.
Yeah.
And then I'd start, because I'd see the future, right? I'd be charging rent when they landed on my property.
You'll have, so this DAI thing, right? You'll have the ability very soon to have an Aussie dollar that's very similar to that, right?
Okay.
When it's unstoppable. Like, no one can take it off you, right? As long as you've self-secured this thing in the right way.
But can the government, though, come in and go, we're not going to allow DAI as a currency?
They can do that if they like, but, they're
just like they're trying to force us to take vaccines.
That's when you end up with trade embargoes, and you end up with Venezuela's and Colombia's, and, like, you end up with... A country won't do that. Like a smart Western, elite country won't ban a currency. That game, and anyway, it doesn't matter if they ban it. That's like saying every business... Okay, like if we take the landscape of Australian small business, right? And I'm not raining on them at all, but there's definitely businesses that take cash over the counter and don't pay tax on it. It exists.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
There's always going to be a need or a desire for a cash economy.
Yeah.
Crypto will thrive forever.
Yep.
You can't stop it, and it'll be means, and it'll be acceptable.
And because you can't track where it's come from either, can you?
So it hasn't got an IP address, but that's not necessarily true with all coins. Like when we get a central bank digital coin, that's a surveillance dollar. That's a pair of handcuffs. It's not a dollar.
So how's this going to affect the economy though? Like, let's say we're all bullish and we're like, yeah, crypto. We pay taxes.
Yep.
Begrudgingly, but we pay taxes so we can have roads, so we can have, infrastructure.
Well, that's a misnomer. Like Centrelink pays out less money than it costs to run the organisation. Centrelink, it'd just be cheaper to give everyone in Australia like $1,000 a week. It'd be cheaper than running the whole business, which is Centrelink.
That probably makes sense,
right? So, like this.
So where I'm going with that is, the country generates money from a lot of taxes.
The best
right?
form of tax, in my opinion.
So if there's no GST, there's no tax on coins. Unless it gets converted to a dollar.
There's tax laws on crypto in Australia. Like there's an amazing CoinJar put out a really good tax guide. Like Australian citizens should have a look at the tax guide that CoinJar put out in 2020. Right. Really good. It's got capital gains tax. It's got all sorts of stuff on crypto. Right. What I was alluding to with the small business comment is that there's going to be people who play cash in hand games.
Absolutely.
It's not going away.
They'll trade rocks for the rest of the life.
Exactly. It's not going anywhere. But my point isn't that this is a tool of tax evasion. It's not at all. What it is it's a tool of streamline and automation of things, right? The central bank currency in Australia will probably include the tax at the point of checkout, so you won't have to... I actually think tax needs to exist. The best version of tax would be a debit tax, which was discussed before GST, which is just pay 2% flat on everything. And abolish sales taxes, abolish income taxes, abolish everything.
Because the money that I've made in my Bitcoin and other coins, so I've got about 6 different coins, right?
Yeah.
The money that I make on that, as soon as I transfer that back to an Australian bank account, technically it's liable for taxation. Right?
Yeah,
but if I keep it in my account and I go and buy an Apple and swipe my Bitcoin card, let's say, where does the tax...
It depends. Like, you remember how Facebook went through this, right? With their ad income, and then the paying GST on it. You remember this moment, right?
Now it's 10%.
Right? Well, so everything goes through these waves and these cycles. You're not avoiding taxes. No one's avoiding taxes, right? That's not the end game here.
It's the current loophole potentially.
But it's a hot minute, and if you're doing any serious sums of money, you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah, that's right. What's this $500,000 deposit?
Why are you driving a Lamborghini, sir? And I see that your tax return was $5,000 last year.
That was the coins I purchased. What are the biggest misconceptions around cryptocurrency that you think that you hear people talk about that just aren't true?
People say Bitcoin's a scam, usually because they've been burnt by some experience. That's probably the main thing. People write it off as a scam, and that's because they grabbed at the wrong holy grail. They grabbed at the wrong cup, and and they didn't inch in, they ran in,
blindly.
Blindly, you know, and they trusted, their brother down at the bar and, whatever it might have been. But the biggest misconception is that it's just all a bunch of scams. That's the biggest misconception because there's real financial technology there.
Yeah.
There really is. Like there's legitimate life-changing, world-changing stuff there.
Okay. What's your advice to your friends with Bitcoin? Like, what would you tell your inner network of friends who aren't already involved in it? What would you be saying to them?
I really like... there's a very specific thing that I like that I think is very cool. There's a thing called a token set, which basically there's a specific token set I really think is cool. One called Ethermappy, which literally buys Ethereum, but when Ethereum's going down below what's called a 26-day moving average, it drops it back into a USDC. And then when it's going above the average, it puts it in ETH. So it's basically keeping the highest
USDC
relative...
is stable.
Yeah.
See, I'm learning. Heck, look at that already.
Look at that. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
So when the market crashes, like what happens when you get... like when
it won't go below. It's like a stop.
And no one knows where it's going to go below too, right?
Correct.
When Bitcoin goes above 20 grand, there's no territory, there's no map as to what price it should stop at.
Correct.
But a moving average tells you to like jump out because it's like not growing as fast as it was at a rate of growth.
Yeah.
So that's something that I talk to my mates about. The other thing I talk to my mates about is like, like offshore structuring. I love, like the jurisdictional stuff. If people haven't watched like The Laundromat on Netflix, it's a great flick. You should, if you want to learn about offshore structures, there's this whole network of the way money is moved around the world that people don't know. The other thing...
Was that the accountants?
Yeah.
I haven't watched that fully, but...
The other thing that we'd talk about is literally like how do you build a country from scratch and how do you play like mega sovereign games, like some random crazy by the fire kind of discussions where like how is a passport made, how is a constitution made, where is the process and point at which you can do that, because these economic contracts are just they're power contracts, and so we have all sorts of weird, interesting conversations with my mates.
I'm thinking about how do I start a country. I can go down
Brett Nation.
I can go down call it Campbell World. Yeah, go to Campbell, Zealand or something. Yeah, and I'll have a big statue of myself in the middle of the country, and I'll get pulled down. I'll be like that guy. No, cool, mate. Well, what else haven't I asked you about crypto that you need to share?
I mean,
because I want to get you back one day and we'll talk about how we'll construct a world from scratch. I think that'll be a cool podcast episode.
That'd be fun.
So I'll need to have some thinking notes before I come into that, or some support. But what else
that I need to know? It's just going to take time to comprehend it, like learning to use a computer.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest thing. Like it's reps, it's volume in the gym.
So where can someone learn?
There's great repositories online. There's amazing resources. So there's a guy called DeFi Dad on YouTube who does all the decentralized finance stuff, just how-to videos. It's great, awesome stuff there.
DeFi Dad.
DeFi, D-E-F-I Dad.
Sounds
great
like a
YouTube
gamer.
Channel. Yeah, totally. He's a good dude.
Was he a gamer?
I think he's
Not that it matters,
definitely played games before.
He's definitely played games.
There's a website called banklesshq.com which has some good quality information on it. But then like if you want basic Bitcoin stuff, there's a website lopp.net/Bitcoin. That has literally a link library of just like video and documentary and this wallet and this, and it's just like a encyclopedia of it. Like it's got some good stuff there. I've got a Facebook group, New Wealth Order, that if people want to jump in there. New Wealth Order.
New Wealth Order.
They go to newwealthorder.com. They'll just like jump in there. But just learn, get into a community, play, and don't play with the house. Play with $5. Go through the whole process with $5. Even though you're like, oh, that's not worth it. It's a waste of my time. No, it's worth sending your first email. It's worth doing your first Facebook Live. It's worth, there's actions to create understanding.
Cool, mate. Well, you summed that up pretty well. I'll have to go back and listen to this as well to try and join a few of the other dots. But yeah, I think that the ultimate message there is, it's like me wanting to sit down and learn how to speak Japanese. And we just had our first session. Like, I'm not going to walk out of here understanding Japanese, how to speak it right. But it's that if you've got interest in crypto, go and join your group. But it's like anything, you want to build a business, you want to do something, you got to just learn.
I could just say why it's worth learning about it for 1 sec is I've seen more first-time millionaires made with crypto than anything else. And so it is an interesting space, but I've seen the people who do it are not the ones who bet the whole house. They're the ones who are patient and learn the stuff.
Right.
And so it's an interesting space. It's really worthwhile getting into. And it's also, it's the decisions that are being made about the future of the world, because money is literally the strongest form of control we have right now. Like the government tapers or controls money.
I mean, Facebook are coming out with their own bloody coin.
Yeah, Libra.
Like,
Libra. It's interesting.
Didn't they change the name of Libra to something else just recently?
probably,
I think they
I'm
have.
sure.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'll wait until the coin gets here.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Well, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Good chats. Thanks.
Awesome.